Hello everybody, and welcome to Episode 5 of Wakeup Options, presented by Miami University Fighters Guild. Once more, as we've said every time, the opinions on this podcast are not representative of the organization or Miami University as a whole. I am Matt, and I'm joined by Benny today.
Hello there, I'm Benny, and I forgot to say last time, I'm the treasurer of Fighters Guild.
Hey, Benny's heart is all that matters, not the position.
Thank you.
Anyway, we join you here on this fine day, although in the midst of Miami University practically shutting down due to recent concerns involving a certain unnamed disease. We will still try and provide wake-up options as often as we can, though we will warn you that it will probably come less frequently than in the past. But now that we got that out of the way, let's go move on to the topic of the day, which is a topic that me and Benny have very, very strong feelings over.
This is a topic where, I think it's the biggest plague in not only the fighting game genre, but in gaming in general, quite honestly.
Oh, yes. In gaming as a whole, obviously in the past, there have been huge concerns over games that are affordable to players. And games that are affordable to players sometimes come with additional costs, extra fees, miscellaneous purchases, which are sad. Because in fighting games, this is very, very clear, and sometimes the most egregious cases of downloadable content being unaffordable or extreme. Which a lot of fighting games sometimes do this process right. And in game design, marketing, publishing nowadays, it's almost impossible to have a game without additional content.
Oh, it's flat out expected with fighting games.
Right.
You can't get around it.
Right. And in games in general, there's always, what's next? Is there going to be downloadable content, additional story editions, etc.? One of the only games in the past that I've seen not do that is God of War 2018, I think.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But there are games, many, many games out there, especially popular shooters, but fighting games especially really delve into this idea of additional monetization and additional costs from the base game.
Excessive, I might add.
Very excessive. I mean, I'll just start things off. Look at the history of Street Fighter 5. At launch, this game had 16 characters. And it was very bare bones. And then in the whole life cycle, to summarize it very quickly, you had 16 characters at launch, and then you had a second season that had about 5 more characters, and then you had a third season, a fourth season, a fifth season, which all cost additional. But then they resold the first 3 seasons as Arcade Edition, and then they just recently resold all 5 seasons as Champion Edition.
Which, you know what? I'll at least commend them for giving them for re-releasing it in a more affordable price to where you don't have to specifically buy the original version and then purchase all of the DLC.
Yep. Both Arcade Edition and Champion Edition were around $30 to $35, which is about half of the launch price of Street Fighter 5. I feel really bad for people who invested in that game super early in 2015.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think that's one of the core problems here. The initial investment is just not worth it anymore. And that sucks because fighting games are already a niche genre and numbers do everything, especially on initial releases.
You're right, and especially when it comes to you want to keep games alive, right? So, and to keep games alive, you usually want new players. But the thing is, for games like Fighters or Tekken 7, I ran the numbers. It costs $80 in DLC alone to get all the characters for Dragon Ball Fighters.
That's tragic.
It is tragic, and that's not even including the price of the base game itself, which you need.
And let's go to Dragon Ball Fighters a little bit.
Yeah.
So, base roster, it's pretty sizable. It's not bad.
It had an okay base roster.
Yeah, it didn't have a ton of interesting characters, but characters like Hit, characters like I'm trying to think, Android 21. I think
those were good,
fairly interesting. The pre-order bonuses, and we'll get into that as we go on, pre-order bonuses and whatnot. But the Super Saiyan Blues, I think their playstyle varied enough, but that's a different conversation. But you had Season 1 Fighters Pass. You had Season 2 Fighters Pass. Now you have Season 3 Fighters Pass, which are all around $25, $30, right?
They range from $25 to $35.
You're basically, if you buy every season, you're buying 2 games and then half of a game. Think about it like that.
It is... I hate it so much, but you know what? I know I said this last year, but I feel like there's going to be a complete edition for Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Right, there will probably be a complete edition, whether it's at the end of this current season or it typically comes for a normal fighting game. Street Fighter is obviously very different, but it usually comes at the end of a game's life cycle when they make a complete edition.
Right.
And Dragon Ball's still going strong. And with Season 3 changes, as we've talked about before on this cast,
it's only going to grow.
It's only going to grow. My big concern with Dragon Ball FighterZ specifically is the fact that some of the DLC is objectively not worth buying. I would say that if you're looking to play the game like on a more competitive, high-end basis, some characters in those DLC passes are practically worthless.
Really? Are they like bottom tier?
Videl, probably.
That's so sad. I was excited for Videl.
Videl is... Well, I mean, she's a fun character, and if you love the character and love the lore and the story behind it, it's a Dragon Ball character. Buy the Dragon Ball character.
Right, and honestly, I usually say don't play off of tier lists.
Right, no, yeah. We had that whole discussion last week about tier lists and whatnot, but I know some people's purchases will be influenced by that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But still, just the idea of, if you want everything the game has to offer, you have to buy 2 games and a half.
Right, yeah, that's the core argument there. That's what really gets at me. Yeah. See, I prefer practices like what Killer Instinct did. And you've heard me a lot on here. I'm very biased towards Killer Instinct. But that's okay. The process behind Killer Instinct's DLC was that it had 3 seasons, much like Dragon Ball FighterZ does. But each season was priced at around $20 or something like that, which is not bad. But they repackaged the game every time to... You could buy Season 1 and 2 in one package, and then now you can buy Definitive Edition, which is $40 for all 3 seasons.
Okay.
Which is not bad, because that also comes with some additional characters. Over the span of the game's lifetime, it was always free. You could buy the game free and have a rotating character from any season on the roster.
Which is a good business model.
It's a good business model. And then some of the additional characters that you only could buy individually. Shadow Jago, Kilgore, Shin Hisako, Eagle. All of the purchases towards those characters didn't go to the company. They went to developing majors like the KI World Cup. That was extremely good in terms of business model and incentivized me to get characters I wouldn't normally play.
Right. I think that's a good model in general. If you juxtapose that with what's happening right now with what came out 2 days ago, by the way, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus.
Oh yes, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. It came out 2 days ago on Steam. And that's the version that we have primarily been using. Though we are going to try and get to PS4 at some point.
We will get the money.
we will get the money. But tell me exactly how much Grand Blue Fantasy Versus costs with DLC at the current moment.
With DLC, if you buy everything at the same time, $80.
$80. Now, how many characters are in Grand Blue Fantasy Versus?
Currently only 13
characters.
13 characters.
Now break that down a little bit. If we divided 80 and 13, I don't think it's worth it.
It is not even close to worth it.
Just think about that for a minute. Although some people might like the game for having less matchups to learn, and some people might think the characters are deep enough and have enough to them.
But if you look at something like Skullgirls,
yes,
where it has about as many characters, even after all the DLC comes out,
right?
And it goes on sale for sometimes $2.
Yep.
It is.
To Grand Blue's credit, I will give them credit where credit is due. They do. All the characters in that game have some layers of depth to them that are worth exploring. Some would argue that Vanilla Street Fighter V is better than them for having 16 characters at launch, but all of those characters were shallow. So it technically probably amounted to 8 characters. So
yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, but Grand Blue, all those characters feel complete. Every character that's come out has felt really deep.
Yeah, none of them felt half-assed.
Yeah, there was a lot of effort that went to. Now let's go into the maybe why. Why do fighting game companies do this? Why do you think?
I think it has something to do with fighting games perhaps being a niche genre, where maybe a lot of the profit is you kind of need to have DLC because the fighting game community will buy it.
That's right. Fighting game community, we've stated it before, but they're very loyal towards the games they play. So they'll buy what the game comes out. There are people who will complain all day long about Street Fighter V's netcode, about the characters that they're coming out, like, where's Aura, where's Dudley? And where's Dudley is a valid question.
Where's Dudley, man?
Where's Dudley is a valid question.
I'll get off Sakura when Dudley comes out, man.
No, but, that conversation still happens, but Street Fighter fans, hardcore, will buy whatever Ono tells them to. And it is true. And it's the same with NetherRealm fans. Yeah. Even if they don't like the game, and no matter how much they complain on Twitter, they will buy the game. And that's extremely funny to me, because it means, A, they have deep pockets, and B, that all their complaining is very shallow.
Yeah, they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Yep.
Which, I've heard arguments being made against, paying with your wallet. I've heard that, maybe it isn't as big of a deal as people say it is, because if they don't see that the game sells, rather than seeing, oh, maybe we screwed up, maybe they'll just see, oh, people aren't interested in fighting games.
Right.
And divert their attention elsewhere.
people who don't understand the genre, and we touched a little bit on this last week. There are many people that don't understand, especially in the overall quote-unquote esports kind of arena, that don't really understand fighting games as well as the community would. And that really impacts when it comes to initial sales and overall sales and stuff of that variety. Mortal Kombat 11 has done extremely well because their initial sales were really good. And they have, NetherRealm games always have really large base rosters and consistent DLC practices, I will say. You always know what you're going to get when it comes to their DLC, and they've established that since 2015 Mortal Kombat X days. Or technically you could go back to Mortal Kombat 9 where they released a combat pack that had 4 to 5 additional DLC characters.
Yeah, which compare that to something like Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yeah, Dragon Ball FighterZ, you barely know what you're getting besides, like, oh, it's several characters, but
sometimes different amounts of characters,
right?
Like,
and you don't even know what characters they are half the time. You gotta rely on faith. You gotta rely on faith.
Well, it's just that idea of paying money for you don't even know what you're getting. I never liked that business practice.
No, I'm not a fan of it. Silhouettes are also into that mind. Like, fighting game companies will release a trailer, it'll show the first character of the DLC pass, and it'll show silhouettes of the next 4. and there'll be all this speculation and hype around it. And then normal people will be like, well, what am I paying for?
Exactly. I don't like it.
I'm not a big fan of it. That's why I prefer the Mortal Kombat model, because they release a trailer that shows you all the characters in it, and they give you the option, hey, you can buy the combat pack or you can't, and sometimes the combat pack or fighter pass or whatever it is goes on sale, much like the base game itself. A lot of these times with this DLC packagings, it never goes on sale. It never reduces in price. All individual characters stay the same price. Dragon Ball FighterZ is egregious with this. $5 to $6 every character. That price has not changed since launch. Even for characters in the first Fighters pack.
Like Broly?
Yeah. Z Broly is still like $6 if you wanted to buy him individually.
That's kind of upsetting. I mean, honestly, I think there are a lot of egregious business practices when it comes to DLC, but I think there are none more egregious than, like, planned day one DLC or whatever.
Oh, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
You might not be as familiar with Soul Calibur 6.
I'm not.
There was day one DLC announced months before the game came out in Tira.
Oh, no.
Yep. They released a trailer for Tira before they were done releasing trailers for the main roster, which was insane to me. That was a huge point of contestment at the time, but people still bought Tira.
Yeah, no kidding. Just the idea of they're basically saying, in order to get the full experience, you need to buy more than just the game. And I think that is, quite honestly, deplorable.
Right? And that can evolve into conversations about video games in the modern day as a whole and have the illusion of the $60 game.
Right.
But in fighting games specifically, I think it's really kind of, it's playing on that loyalty that we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Fighting game players will buy what their favorite company puts out. That's just fact. And it's an unfortunate fact. And fighting game developers and publishers know this.
Yeah.
So they will price things of that nature. However, when you get the cases that people like, whereas Street Fighter V has been kind of going back and forth, but now they have weekends where the game is free and certain seasons of characters are free.
Wait, even the DLC is free?
Yes, they're having weekends where specifically seasons of DLC are free.
Okay, that's pretty
In addition to the base game.
Yeah, and also what I like about Street Fighter is that theoretically you can, grind to unlock the characters.
Yeah, fight in-game currency.
Yes.
In-game currency to buy characters I think is great because it gives you two options. It might be grindy as hell. Street Fighter's is grindy as hell.
Yeah, no kidding.
As a person who had to unlock Gil using fight money basically from scratch, yeah, that was tough.
Right, but I just learned from you the other day that, I play Sakura in Street Fighter V when I decide to play Street Fighter V. And apparently, I don't need to pay money to get Sakura. I can just do the story mode.
Nope, you can just play the story modes and get through that.
Yeah, which is something I appreciate, and something I wish games like Fighters would do.
Yeah, I wish games like Fighters could have you play through. Like, you can unlock Android 21, but only after you complete 3 story modes.
Yeah, that's okay.
3 story modes. I would understand it if it was the first one.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 11, you unlock Frost after playing the 4th chapter of the story mode. You can do that in probably, if you skip the cutscenes, probably like 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Fighters, that story, takes about 4 to 5 hours.
And you need 3 of them for 21.
3 of them. That's over 20 hours, or 15 to 16 hours.
Which, I guess that goes into a bigger discussion of, like, how do you feel about characters being unlocked nowadays? Because I feel like nowadays, the way characters are unlocked is more towards DLC, whereas back in the day, it was about, gameplay.
I miss the era of secret characters.
Yeah.
I really do. Think back to OG Street Fighter 2. Akuma was a secret character. Mm-hmm. You had to do an asinine process in Street Fighter 2 Turbo to get him and play as him on the main screen. Was he busted? Yes. Was it fun as hell to see him? Also yes.
Yeah, but I think a big reason that's not a huge thing anymore is, at least in my opinion, because of the internet, where people know about these characters right off the bat.
Right. Communication's huge.
Yeah, whereas years ago, people weren't as involved in the FGC online as they are today, where if you saw a character, all of a sudden be available, it was all the more exciting.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think back in the day, is a great good examples of doing DLC right or secret characters, because Vanilla Street Fighter 4 had a base roster that looked really small on first glance. It was like maybe 7 or 8 characters. But half of the characters are unlocked by playing through arcade mode with other characters. You complete Ryu's arcade mode, you get Sakura.
Right.
You play through Ken's arcade mode, you get Blanca, I think, or some crap like that.
Yeah,
that has no relation to each other, but whatever. I didn't make the game.
Yeah, no kidding.
But anyway, but then you have additional things on that. You do really good in arcade mode, you can unlock a secret boss fight, and then you unlock that character if you win that boss fight.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you don't consider Smash a fighting game,
yeah.
But I remember one of my favorite things about Super Smash Bros. Brawl when I played that was just all of a sudden seeing Challenger approaching.
Right.
And just seeing, oh my gosh, who the hell is that character? Yep. I want him.
Even though I don't consider Smash a fighting game, I still think what Ultimate did for unlocking characters may have been asinine to some people, but I loved it. I loved that process. I thought it was great. I thought it was cool seeing the character you wanted, and I think the CPUs kicked ass.
Yeah,
which they
fair
did.
enough.
But that's okay. Well, we're not here to talk
right.
about Smash. This isn't a Smash podcast.
Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, DLC can get really bad, but it can also be done right.
I agree, because I think the great way to do DLC is a game company delivers a finished product, and then they say, oh wow, the people really like this game, and so they develop more content for it, and they say, hey, if you want to get another stuff for your fighting game, you could do that.
Right.
But the way I think people are doing it now is just, we know you're going to buy it, we know you're going to buy it in addition to the base game, so we're just going to sell it to you in addition right away, basically.
I think that trend kind of got started with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where there was Disc 1
They're
DLC.
disc lock DLC.
Disc lock
it's
DLC.
on the disc that you purchased, but you need to pay money to unlock it.
Nothing grinds my gears more than seeing, in the code of the game, that this character exists and is being locked behind a paywall.
It is complete crap. And it makes me angry about stuff like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Oh my god.
Where you see, I think Black Panther and Venom are appear in the story, don't they?
Yes.
I
think Black Panther, not Venom.
Oh, not Venom? Okay. Well, either way, you see characters being planned, and then they're just sold to you later as DLC.
That's right. And expensive DLC, mind
Yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom, what is it, $7 or $8 for a character?
$8 for a character. That's horrible. I think all the DLC that came out that game was 6. So 6 times 8 is what, 48? That's coming close to the game price.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
And can you imagine if MVCI actually did well? There'll probably be more DLC on top of it.
Now, MVCI, for those of you listening who don't really know, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was kind of a dumpster fire in terms of marketing a game. The gameplay was fine. It was art style, the development, the amount that Capcom put into it and restricted their funding to get the game may have forced them to do that practice. So I won't... no. Who cares? I will put blame on them.
We were sold a game, and I want a game.
It's true. And the sad part was, all of those DLC characters were more interesting, gameplay-wise, than half the roster. Sigma was amazing. Sigma had systems that no one else in the character had. Obviously, for me, Venom was amazing.
Right.
Incredible. I loved playing as Venom in that game. That kept me going in that game. I wouldn't have played Marvel otherwise.
Yeah, I'm with you. But you know what? I'm glad that Dante is at least in the base game. Because Dante has quite a bit of depth from what I played.
They didn't bring back Virgil. The cowards.
Sad.
The cowards.
Yeah, I just wish they didn't have to reuse models.
I just want to touch someone and kill them in one combo. Is that too much to ask? I just want to pop X Factor, hit him with that Virgil stuff, Devil Trigger. Yes.
Dude, play UMVC3.
Dude, I know. I want to. Yeah, if I ever get back into MVC3, I will play Virgil, and I will make people's lives sad.
I'm waiting till we get MVC3. Then I'm going to start, playing the shit out of it with, hopefully, Joe, but I don't think Joe's going to like it.
Nah, Joe won't like it. Dude, I'll play Akuma and Virgil. I'll touch people and kill them.
Right, I'm with you.
But either way.
In MVCI, I'm just frustrated that it didn't get as much funding as it needed to get.
Right.
Because you saw that it had to reuse models from Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which had a very, very different aesthetic.
Very much so. Firebrand, I think, is a great example of that. Firebrand used the same moveset and a lot of the same animations, with a couple of new ones. But overall, you looked very UMVC3-like in Infinite, which art style was extremely different. And that kind of budget, or a game not doing as well, kind of forces developers to put out that model to kind of meet their quota that they spent on making the game, or to make up for debts. Right. Who knows? I think Granblue was kind of in that spot. They didn't know, or they didn't think the game was going to sell that well, because it's based off of a...
Gotcha.
Yeah, they expected it to sell well in Japan, obviously, because it's
a really popular gacha in Japan.
Oh, yeah. But they didn't really expect it to sell well in the West. But I think fighting game fans may have proved them wrong.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe the second season of DLC will be better, but I doubt it.
And either way, it's probably going to, again, cost like $20 or $30.
Right.
On top of the season we already have.
That's the modern way, I guess.
It's not something I appreciate. But you know what? That's why I really like Fighters Guild.
Right.
Because, we allow people to actually enjoy these DLC characters without having to actually buy them themselves.
Fighters Guild does something that I've always loved in terms of DLC content. We use the university's money to buy it, so it is not our problem.
We get the school to pay for our video games.
That's right. It is Miami's problem. We get the bureaucracy to buy our games for us, and I prefer that.
Same here. It's just annoying where, I can't play these at home. I have to, go to the club to lab.
That is true. It is hard for an individual person who enjoys fighting games to buy so many seasons of DLC and to try and keep up, especially if they enjoy multiple titles. It forces players to only play one game. And I think that's super bad and limited. I think KOF 14 was kind of godlike in the way that it handled DLC.
How did it? I'm not actually familiar with that.
Okay, first of all, the first DLC pass they did silhouettes, and I didn't like that.
Oh, sad.
However, I think both DLC passes were $15 or less for 4 characters. And the base game had at 50 to 60 characters.
Dude, okay, that's how it should be.
That's how the base game was so complete, but it didn't do well at launch because it wasn't KOF 13 graphically. Because KOF 13 has the most beautiful sprite graphics ever. You should buy that game.
KOF 14 doesn't look bad. It's just like a bit rudimentary.
No, they reworked the graphics over time. Initially, it was their SNK's first foray into 3D art.
Right. And you can tell, but it still looks okay.
It still looked fine. And the gameplay may have been simplified compared to 13, but it was still fun. And that's what mattered.
Yeah, and out of curiosity, how much did the base game cost for KOF 14?
It was like your standard 60.
Standard 60? Okay. Well, at least you still had a bunch of characters to somewhat justify the price.
KOF 14 has been... Like, the base game always costs around, like, 60. Like, it doesn't really depreciate that much, but I think that's more for the markets that it's involved with. It goes on sale a lot. It was included in a Humble Bundle once that was like $12.
Dude, I should have bought that. I didn't know about that.
I didn't know about it until it was too late.
Sad.
But it's a game that prioritizes the base game first, and the DLC only came after the support did.
No, that's how it should.
And that allowed for characters like Rock Howard. And that makes the game worth it for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That KOF 14 is a great game. No matter what anybody says, I love that game.
I haven't touched it as much just because I heard the executions are a bit tough.
Yeah, it's got some tough motions. It's got some pretzels.
Oh boy,
that's okay.
But I was playing Blaze Blue the other day with Joe, and it was just
Why does Central Fiction still have DLC?
I don't know,
explain
man.
that to me?
I don't know, man.
It's an old game.
You're
Come
right.
on.
Maybe it didn't sell as well as Arc System wanted it to, so they are.
Why? When did Central Fiction come out? Like 20. Well,
I don't
know if it was in. It's got to be in the 2010s.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't this year.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't this year. But Susanoo is DLC, I think,
Right.
or unlockable in some fashion.
Right.
But I think games that kind of are living past their life cycle should have a complete edition of some
Right.
variety.
But you know what? I can almost forgive BlazBlue right now, at least, just because there was recently a Steam sale. I think it might still be going on, where I can get Central Fiction with, I think, most of its DLC minus one character.
That is true.
But for $8, which
Alright.
is
That's fair.
is kick-ass,
That
because
is nice.
the DLC character was only $2 also.
Let's talk about a game related to BlazBlue
Okay.
that handles DLC poorly. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle.
Oh no.
Now, okay, first of all, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle had DLC announced before launch. Always a negative.
Right.
But half of the roster is DLC.
That's terrible. Oh my god.
The base roster was 2 Ruby characters.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like 6 or 8 BlazBlue characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 Persona characters and 6 Undernight characters. That leads you to a total of about 22 base roster. Not horrible.
That's not bad compared
There
to
are just as many of those characters as DLC.
Okay. That's
They released them in packs of 4.
How many-
That cost
okay.
up to $20 each.
that's
In packs of 4.
very upsetting.
There are at least 5 or 6 of those packs of 4. And the 2.0 update also costs money.
Wait a second. The 2.0 update doesn't come with all the DLC?
The additional DLC that happens with that, like Neo from Ruby, Blitztank, Susanoo, those are all additional prices.
Okay. So wait a second. If I'm going to buy BlazBlue in its
It's
entirety...
about 120.
Oh my...
I'm not even kidding. That's 2 games right there, people.
BlazBlue isn't even that complex of a game.
Cross Tag is not a complex game.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it even justifies that price.
The only thing they did right is that they made Blake and Yang from Ruby free DLC.
Yeah, I'm glad.
That's launch free DLC if, you buy the game.
Right. But
Why they had it as additional downloadable that you had to go to the store to
yeah, if
download
it's
them?
free day one, like,
I don't know, man.
it make you feel like you're getting something free.
Right. For all the good that they did with 2.0 as far as system changes went, I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you. But
There are so many characters in that game that you think you can play until you realize that they're downloadable DLC. Hakumen's a great example of that. Hakumen, a mainstay BlazBlue character, was locked as DLC.
yeah, okay, which draws me to another point of, I really hate how when you buy a game and you launch it up for the first time, you go to the character select screen, there's a bunch of gray characters.
Yeah.
They tease you. It's...
Mortal Kombat 11 did that. They have like empty slots. And they were like, well, look at this one. It's going to happen. Or like when the character select screen is obviously like asymmetrical in some way.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, that space is going to be filled.
No, I just mostly hate it when they have the full character portrait, there's a little lock symbol.
Yeah.
Like, I booted Street Fighter 5,
yeah,
up
they
for a
got that
second.
little cart symbol. I hate that.
I paid full price for that game, and here I am not actually getting everything.
I hate those little cart symbols. I hate like the little grayed out. Ki taunted me with that for a while, but I've already been over. They did it all right.
Yeah. But, I'm at least happy that, they released a Champion Edition. So
Yeah.
I'm able to get it.
It's not bad. There are some games that do it well, and some games that are learning to do it well. Street Fighter, the prime example. But there are some games that refuse to learn it well, like Tekken.
Right. And, when I look at all these bad DLC practices, I can't help but, remember what Nate said in our last meeting.
Right.
He said, why not just play Skullgirls?
Why not? For all of you, those listening, Skullgirls is $1 on Fanatical. You should buy it.
It is.
Play it.
It is the best fighting game. Changed my mind.
Benny and I may disagree on that, but I will not back down in saying that Skullgirls is a good game.
I have gotten a criminal number of hours out of that game for how much I paid for it.
That's true. It's a good game. It's a good game. But either way, Tekken. Let's talk about it a little bit. It does DLC poorly.
Yeah.
We have already established that.
$80 for all the characters.
But let's talk about something other than characters.
Okay. Oh my gosh, the frame data. Oh my gosh. That is so terrible. Why would you lock,
$4, people. You have to pay $4 to get proper frame data. A thing that comes naturally in most fighting games. A thing that comes in package that you can display in training mode with every other game we've listed.
It's not okay.
Even Dragon Ball, for all of its faults, lets you see frame advantage and frame data. Tekken does not.
Unless you pay that $4.
It's part of a Season 3 pass.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, but that's still bad.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Listen.
It's just, again, part of that whole thing where...
Characters, I can get behind that. I play and main most DLC characters. I'm a shill that way.
And even colors, I can understand that because it's completely aesthetic. It doesn't affect gameplay as much.
I get that. If you want to pay for a color, pay for a color. But frame data? It's really?
That is a staple feature of a lot of fighting game training modes.
Okay. Tekken has a very large roster. Tekken is a very deep game. Mm-hmm. Those are known. The frame data is important to learning that depth.
Exactly. And I don't understand. Oh, I do understand. But it's just, I hate this trend of gaming companies saying, this is something we could just include in the base game, but you know what? Let's just sell it to them.
Yep. First of all, that raises a lot of questions with Tekken. Mm-hmm. First of all, why did they not want to include frame data in the first place? Answer, Harada didn't want to.
Yeah.
2, when they decided to include frame data, why didn't they just include it with their seasonal patch? Patch 3.0 for Season 3. Wouldn't be a bad idea. They release balance changes and they're really good at communicating patch notes all the time. Mm-hmm. And despite Leroy being a busted mess at launch, they fixed him over time. I trust that team. They're really good with balancing. But
yeah, the dollar signs, man.
But the dollar signs. But the green, though. They did include punishment training for free, which I do appreciate.
Okay, good. At least they're releasing some features free.
Yeah, they are some features free, but I want that damn content.
Yeah, no kidding. I wish that... I know Splatoon isn't a fighting game, but I appreciate what they do, how they actually supplied extra content over time with that game for completely free.
I do like that. Free content is always nice, but in fighting games, it's doubtful that that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, but that's just the industry, I guess.
Yeah, the gaming industry, the illusion of $60. It's getting to that way where Day 1 DLC is very widely apparent in fighting games that come out. I just hope that Guilty Gear Strive learns from its predecessors.
Yes.
And prioritizes the release of the base game first, despite what people have been saying about the game. Mm-hmm. And I also hope King of Fighters 15 does what King of Fighters always does. Release a massive base game.
Yes.
King of Fighters is huge base game stuff. KOF 2002 is basically like the All-Stars.
Mm-hmm. At least with KOF, you don't feel like you're not getting your money's worth, usually.
Oh, yeah. SNK games, you usually get your full money's worth. Mm-hmm. Let's talk... That actually reminds me. Mm-hmm. Samurai Showdown took DLC in a completely new direction, and I loved it.
What, if you buy it, day 1 or very early, you actually got the Season Pass?
You got the first Season Pass completely free if you bought the game within 3 days of launch.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And the game was $40. I mean... Samurai Showdown obviously is a more niche game in a more niche genre.
But it's so good, though.
But it's so good. It's such a good game.
Quite honestly, I think it's more fun than a lot of games that are priced at $60.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's a great gem. But Samurai Showdown had a pretty bigger roster. But then again, it is a deeper game than meets the eye.
Yeah, but the roster is bigger than Grand Blue, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the roster is way bigger than Grand Blue.
Exactly.
By at least 6 characters, I think.
It's more bang for your buck.
It's decently sized. And then now that you got the DLC and stuff of that variety, it's got a pretty nice roster. And you got that first DLC free, like Fighters Guild did.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, second season will probably have a pass of some variety, and that deal won't apply, but who cares? You got the full first DLC free. Your wallet took a reprieve.
I mean, I care, but it's better.
Yeah, it is better. It is better.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend for 1.5 games for 2.5 games.
Yeah, you're right.
The amount of game ratios.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get off the topic about DLC as a whole and as a practice for a little bit and talk about a DLC-related thing, but more of a character. Spawn is coming to Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, he actually looks cool. I usually don't play Mortal Kombat, but I saw the trailer, and I gotta say, those chains look nice to use.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I'm a comic book guy. I like Venom a lot. And the fact that Todd McFarlane created Spawn obviously means I'm gonna like Spawn. At least a little. But I've been rewatching the HBO series, which you guys should watch too. The Spawn HBO series can be found on YouTube. It's really good.
I might check it out.
Mr. Keith David, voice of Arbiter from Halo, voices Spawn. And I think it's probably his best voice acting role, and he might agree with me.
Wow.
But I love Spawn so much. He is an inspiration of Venom, Batman, and basically represents the 90s as a whole.
I see what you mean. I really enjoy his design, I will say.
Yep. What has kept to give you some context, you're not a Mortal Kombat guy.
No, I'm not.
I kind of am. People have been requesting Spawn in a Mortal Kombat game since 9. So back in 2011. That ever since Freddy Krueger was announced, it kind of like opened the floodgates. It's like, oh, anybody can be in here. Mm-hmm. And so it was requested in Injustice 1 because he was a comic book character. It was requested in Mortal Kombat X really heavily. But I mean, Mortal Kombat X got Predator and Alien, so I'll take that.
Mortal Kombat X had good guest characters.
Oh, yeah, probably the best. I still think Mortal Kombat X's guests are probably better than 11's.
I'm almost like more inclined to play X just because I like the characters.
Predator was nasty. And so was Alien. And Jason, too, I guess, if you want.
Dude, Alien was an X. Oh
Dude,
my
I
gosh.
forget Leatherface was in the game, too. Oh, see, that's some DLC, baby.
Yeah.
I will spend my money. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Spawn has been requested in Injustice 2 after that, and now he's finally in MK11. The gore fest he can be in. But the hardest part, the reason I think he couldn't be in any Mortal Kombat game is because that damn cape.
Wait, really?
The cape is a living cape. Okay. His suit is basically a separate entity, which is based off of demons, Malboja, hell, and all that. Mm-hmm. But the cape is like wildly animated. It's constantly swirling and moving.
Oh, you think that...
Animation for the cape is probably one of the hardest things that people have to do. And I say this as a person who's designed games.
That's interesting. I didn't see it that way.
No, I know that cape, based on limited hardware at the time, for that cape to constantly be moving with him as he like jumps and dashes and moves around, for it to not clip, I think they used Injustice 2 as a good practice for that.
Yeah, Injustice 2 has capes.
Yeah. Technically, Superman in Injustice 1 has a cape, but, it's Injustice 1 graphics. That game looks a little janky as it is.
No, that's fair. I might try Spawn a little bit when he comes out, just because his design is cool.
He looks very cool. And I think they did him justice.
Yeah, same here.
He has a lot of nice costumes. His intros and outros are great. Obviously, he's well animated. Mortal Kombat 11 is one of the most beautiful fighting games out there right now. One of. It's a completely different style than, say, Guilty Gear or Anarxis or Grand Blue, which are also beautiful games.
Oh, absolutely. I really like the style of, Unist also.
Right. Yeah, Unist. Oh, going back to DLC. Uniclear is a free update.
I know. I appreciate that so much.
French bread, you spoil us.
Which, I mean, they are releasing an additional character. But, it's
one character.
It's one character, exactly.
I will take one character.
Yeah, that goes,
That's like your nice bagel in the morning.
Exactly. Under Night is proven to be it's a game everyone loves.
Yeah.
You can't fault it.
Good for them, man.
Mm-hmm. And, it makes me glad that it's an Evo, assuming Evo doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, you can always go back to our discussion on last week's episode for us talking about event cancellations surrounding coronavirus. And yeah, we've been affected by it too.
Classes are pretty much only online
null
now.
and void, yeah. Anyway, though, we were kind of talking about cool DLC characters. What's like the coolest example of a character that you completely foregoed your principles on DLC wise and were like, I'm going to pay for it. I don't care about the bad practices.
No, that's valid. It was going to be Kefla, but I don't really...
Right.
I don't really play Dragon Ball. But if I did play Dragon Ball, I would totally just buy Kefla. Right. Because she was a character I actually wanted in Fighters since I started... Well, I don't play Fighters anymore. But before I came to college, I actually played a shit ton of Fighters.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and she was a character I thought would fit in, basically as soon as I saw her in the anime. Mm-hmm.
What?
And I'm kind of baffled how it took them so long to put Kefla in the game.
Yeah, wasn't she requested from season 1 on?
Yeah, easily, definitely. Not as much as Broly was, but still, I expected her to get in before Janemba.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. I do play Janemba.
Yeah, fair, but I didn't even know who Janemba was when he came out. I didn't see the movies.
Man, you gotta watch that Fusion Reborn, Benny.
Yeah,
that's
you're
that
right.
Gogeta.
Yeah, no kidding.
But anyway, I must confess, I'm a bit of a hypocrite.
Oh, well.
I talk all this stuff about how DLC practices are bad, but my pockets are constantly evicted. Majority of the time, I mentioned it briefly, but I play a lot of DLC characters. Mm-hmm. I think it started with Mortal Kombat X, and I played Triborg, which was a combination of the 3 variations were Cyrax, Sector, and Smoke, with actually a secret hidden 4th variation that not a lot of people know about in Cyber Sub-Zero. But Sector has been my main since I played Mortal Kombat back in 2008.
You seem to gravitate towards a lot of DLC characters.
Yeah.
Like, even in Skullgirls, like, I know Big Bang comes with a base game now, or at least in Second Encore. But, like, in Skullgirls, you immediately gravitated toward Big Bang.
That's true. I gravitate towards characters that are DLC. Is it because they're sometimes stronger?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. It depends on the game you're looking for. But, like, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Z, Broly, Janemba, Cooler are all DLC characters. Blaze of Cross-Tag, Hakumen, and Susanoo are both DLC characters. Street Fighter V, Akuma is technically a DLC character. Tekken 7, Geese Howard is a DLC character. I could go on. I think the only game that I really haven't done that in is Soul Calibur, because I have stuck to Voldo, and Voldo is a base character, and always will be. And I don't think I'll ever go DLC on Soul Calibur, because unless Halmaru in Soul Calibur 6, who I have not tried yet, is really neat looking, and I might go to him occasionally, but always go back to Voldo.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe I'll try Halmaru in Soul Calibur, by the way.
You know what?
I don't like Soul Calibur, but I might try it again.
To be fair, yeah, Sam shows an example. I'll play Genjiro. That's a main character.
Yeah,
that's base
exactly.
roster.
And here I am playing Rimururu.
Yeah. The tables have turned. But anyway, yeah. What is probably a DLC character that you have had zero interest in?
Zero interest in?
That list is probably long, I know, but like the most egregious case that you can think of.
Probably in a game I don't play.
Yeah, that's fine. In a game you do play.
In a game I do play, we'll see. Honestly, I'm not interested in the new Ice character in Uniclear.
Yeah.
Just because I love Phonon so much.
That's fair.
And if I'm bored with Phonon, I can just play Chaos.
That's true.
And if I'm bored with Chaos, I can just play Merkava.
That's fair. Let me tell you about a character that I think that I saw this character come out, and I said, why does he have a slot? And his name is Bo Rai Cho in Mortal Kombat X. He is the mentor of Liu Kang and Kung Lao, right? He's a drunken master style.
Okay.
Guess what other DLC came out with him?
I don't know, man. I don't know Mortal Kombat.
Triborg, Alien, and Leatherface came out with him. Tell me which character in that past that you feel like playing.
Oh no, I want Alien, please.
Exactly. Bo Rai Cho made zero sense to be a DLC character. Granted, they made his gameplay cool, but it's Mortal Kombat X. Everything was kind of cool in that game.
Yeah, fair enough.
But Alien, Leatherface, and Triborg all came out with him. I had so little interest in him, I forget he's in the game.
Well, hey, you don't have to. I mean, you do have to buy them if you're going to play.
I did have to buy him though. I had to see his ugly face on my roster every time.
Well, I mean, does it cost less to just buy the all but one character in a season pass than just buying the season pass?
I think it's like $5 a character, so it kind of depends. I think those character passes were $20 to $25, so it may have been cheaper.
Okay,
but I think, like me, I bought XL, which came with both season passes and the base game,
right?
And it was $60, so that was a much better purchase.
Overall. Oh yeah, that's a good purchase.
Because then it would have been $110 otherwise, and I would have not liked to have bought 2 games.
Yeah, I'm with you.
My budget is limited, people.
I see.
But anyway, to kind of finalize our thoughts here, DLC practices can be done right.
They can.
They are mostly done wrong.
Pretty much, because it works.
It does work. It's a big reflection about gaming right now as a whole. And I think fighting games can do a lot better.
Right.
What would be your ideal case scenario for a DLC practice?
Oh, just in a best case scenario, which this is definitely not going to happen, a company just won't plan on DLC unless the game does well. They won't even start development on DLC until the game releases everywhere.
Like, they won't talk about it.
Exactly. No, they won't even start development on it until the game releases everywhere.
Geez.
Yeah. And then they see, oh man, people like this game, we're going to develop more content for it.
On the bright side, that's a long life cycle for the game.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't like it when people...
Think about the shekels, Benny. Think about the money.
But, I feel like if you plan DLC, then that goes into the game development side of this game isn't going to be the full product. We're not going to give them absolutely everything.
Right.
And I feel like the only way to... Well, not the only way, but a big way to avoid that is to just say we're going to release a whole game.
Yeah, a whole game. I feel like my ideal case scenario is that things are priced reasonably.
Yeah,
Because I understand, as a person who's studying game design and development, I understand the need to have additional costs in there. Monetization is like the way things go, and games are very expensive now to make, mostly because game engines cost a shit ton.
Right, but that cost is a lot of more... I think that applies a lot, not less to fighting games and more to, really AAA RPGs like Horizon Zero Dawn or stuff.
Yeah. But that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, these games are being charged the same amount.
That's true. But anyway, DLC, it's a big issue. And please, leave your own opinions on it in comments or anything of that variety. We'd love to hear from it. Or any of your experiences on DLC characters you've shilled for or not shilled for. And you Android 21 players, I see you. I know who you are. I know of those of you who could have played the story mode, but you wanted your waifu quick, so you spent $6. I know who you are, and you can't run away from
Does
me.
that even count as DLC?
It shouldn't. But there are people who want that character quick, and they know who they are.
Yeah, and same thing with Goku Blue and Vegeta Blue.
And same with you Tira players in Soul Cal. You saw that day 1 DLC. You knew her shoe size. You knew exactly what was going to happen. I know you. I'm looking at you right now.
So you don't approve of people cheating?
I don't approve of people going for their base desires to get a character.
Okay.
No. But that's a conversation for another time. Once again, all of our opinions here are not affiliated with the organization or university as a whole. My name has been Matt, and I've been with Benny.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.